Hello, Cheryl. Nice to see you.
Hiya.
How are you today?
I am very well, thank you. Excited to be here with you.
Excellent, excellent. I was so looking forward to speaking to you today. For those of you who are watching, Cheryl is one of my coaches and is just absolutely brilliant. And Cheryl worked in corporate for several years. Now is your time with Donna, about 7 years ago. Is that right? About 7 years. They are coaches, all amazing stuff, and around, for me, it's been particularly great around mindset and how we look at things differently. I asked Cheryl whether she'd come on today and have a chat around mindset. Do you want to talk a little bit just like how you got to where you are now? Because you've had an interesting career.
When you say I worked in corporate for a few years, I'm like, yeah, I'm only 21.
Well, you only look 21.
Yeah. So I worked in corporate for actually 20 plus years probably. In contact centres, that was the career that I then fell into by accident. So I started working in contact centres and then became a leader. Then Donna, who my business partner, who I set up the business with, we worked together for 10 years at one financial services company. So yes, I was a leader there of large numbers of people. Always had a passion for coaching, passion for leadership. I was very good at it. As I was leaving the place that Donna and I worked, we both took redundancy, went into different companies, and that's when I then started to study neuro-linguistic programming, which is NLP, which was all around the mind and the subconscious mind and language. So I went on a couple of years whilst I still worked in corporate studying that, because I knew that I wanted to become a coach. That was the goal. So in 2018, Donna had left corporate. She was doing consultancy work in corporate companies, and I was still working in the last corporate place I worked at. And I remember saying to Donna, if I got redundancy, I would just leave because I wasn't enjoying doing it. Guess what happened? They made us redundant. But what I actually did was I set up my own business. So I had my business, Donna had hers, and we were like, right, we're just going to come together. We're going to teach leadership and talent stuff, and we'll do a bit of stuff together separately. And then my dad he had a terminal illness and he became really poorly and passed away in the May of that year. And it was actually Donna that had the bit of a come to me moment of like, what we're doing here. So whilst I was dealing with all of that, she was researching setting up a global coaching business online, and then basically came to me and said, do you want to do this together? And I was like, yes. And that was in the beginning of June, and by the 18th of June, now is your time, it was born.
Wow, and I've learned something new, because I didn't know you actually had two separate businesses and came together. So I've even learned something new for this call already. Yeah. And so your business has evolved and just like absolutely rocketed, hasn't it?
Yes, so we set the business up in June 2018, and just started off doing one thing at a time. That was the thing. Started working with clients one-to-one. Then we started to introduce group programs. Then we did retreats. And now we do a mixture, as you know, of group programs. We run retreats, we speak, we've launched, we've got a Amazon #1 best-selling book. So it's just evolved as the years have gone on, and managed to turn over like multi-seven-figure dollars in the business. So I hired a team. So yes, it's expanded as we've evolved over the years.
Yeah. Truly an inspiration, you and Donna are. I think, for anybody setting up their business, then they need to follow you. Definitely an inspiration, and so pleased when I found you both. So I suppose today, and as you know, as part of the work that I'm doing, Cheryl, I'm really looking at and working with graduates and anybody really leaving study. And as we know, the market, and actually you don't even actually need to be at that level. You could be at any level in your career, because actually the career market is really tough at the moment. And what I keep hearing from people is around the difficulties when you apply and you get rejected, and then you might have interview after interview and you get rejected. And that can really knock your confidence and make you feel, you start off feeling really good. It's really hard to take rejection after rejection. I'm not saying that everybody's in that boat. I know in my career I've had times where I've been rejected for roles, and you get a run of them, you think, crikey, what am I doing? And it's really hard to pick yourself up, isn't it? And to start again. So I suppose with these conversations, it's really talking about what that looks like to people, and I suppose anything you can talk about that would be helpful, that would inspire people or give them tips about how they can really manage their mindset when they get in times of that, where there's rejection after rejection.
Yes, I think, I've been in that position myself where when in the last 3 corporate roles, I was made redundant 3 times. So that then leads to having to look for different roles. So I've been in the position myself where I've applied for different roles and not been successful and been rejected. Yeah. And like you say, when it happens a number of times, you kind of start to lose. You might start off feeling confident, and then you get a no, and then another no and another no, and your confidence seems to deplete, and then you start questioning yourself and your abilities, and it's like you take the rejection personally. So a lot of time when somebody says no for a role, you take that as you're not good enough, you're not worthy for the job, you don't deserve the job, and you start to question yourself and how you see yourself and what you believe about yourself, rather than it being, no, this job isn't right for you at this time with that company. It doesn't mean you aren't good enough and you're not worthy and you're not deserved and you can't have the role you desire. It just means, no, it wasn't right for that company at that time from that person. But quite often we don't take the no as that. We take it as they are rejecting me. And then quite often that can bring up other things that's happened to us in the past, and then we end up on a spiral going down, further down, and we'll lose motivation, we'll lose the will, we'll lose confidence. And then sometimes that can lead to not applying for roles that previously you would have thought you could do and you had the capabilities of. You then start to apply for roles less than, which requires less, maybe it's less money, because you think you're not good enough for the job that you really, really want. So you start to undersell yourself, you start to aim lower than what you really want or what you used to think you deserved. And sometimes you get desperate.
You do. And I know I've been in that position. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's that job that you really want, that you're like, oh, I really, really want this job. And then you don't get it. And you just feel like you think, what am I going to do now? And I've been in that position where I've maybe then gone for another job that hasn't been at a certain level that I knew I could do, because you start to have that belief in yourself that you're not as good. And it's not a very nice place to be, is it? Especially if you've, like you as well, I've been made redundant and you're looking for jobs, and that's hard. I think sometimes it's easier when you're in a job, I would say. I don't know, people might not agree, but I always think I felt if I'm in a job, I felt better, but not when I'm sort of actually looking and I haven't got anything lined up.
Yeah, I think it's the confidence thing, isn't it? When you're in a job and you've got a stable salary coming in and you're in that space, you can feel more confident applying for another job, because if you don't get it, you've already got a job. Where when you're in between roles, or you haven't got a specific role yet, and then you've got bills to pay and a family to look after, and whatever, a lifestyle, and you want to do things, then that's when it can feel a bit desperate, where you get to a point where you're like, right, well, I'll just take anything that comes along, because you're undervaluing yourself, rather than sticking with, I know what I'm worth, I know what I deserve, I know how good enough, I know how capable I am. And that role, when that person said no for that role at that time, that's because that wasn't the right role for me, and my role is on its way. My role is, the next right role for me will be the one that I was meant to have, but quite often that's not the approach that we have or take.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would say, in my experience, then another role comes up and you're like, this is the role that's meant to be for me. But at the time when you get rejected, that's like massive, isn't it? But then another one will come along and you're like, so this is the role that I'm meant to go in. And
yeah, at the time you can't see why you've been rejected. You don't understand what's going on or why it's going on. And then when the next thing happens, which is what was meant for you, you're like, oh, now it makes sense. But because you can't see in the future.
No, it'd be great if we had a crystal ball, we'd be okay.
Yeah, we don't have a crystal ball, we can't see in the future. So quite often that isn't. We have to just be patient and wait and know that the right role is on its way, and that's the bit that people find challenging.
Yes, and and if I think of some of the graduates that I've talked to, you come out of study, you've had that university life, you've had your friends around, I know what I want to go and do, and then you start looking and and then you get rejected, and that's really quite tough, because actually as well, you might be back at home in your family, you know, might have this amazing life at uni where you're in a city and, you know, you're with all your friends, and then you're back maybe in a rural location, and, you know, you're living back with your mum and dad, and then you're applying for jobs, and that can feel quite tough. So I suppose from you, Cheryl, with all the people that you work with, from your experience as well, is if you feel in that position where you're starting to feel like, oh, this is not working, what sort of things can you do around your mindset maybe, or anything that you could that would help people, that they could maybe take a step back and reflect on?
Well, I think, yeah, the most important thing is how you talk to yourself and what you believe, your own beliefs, and your identity and how you see yourself. So when you're in that position and you are applying for roles, and, you know, at that age, you're wanting someone to give you an opportunity. Sometimes it might be the first time you're on the career ladder, and quite often the roles will say you need experience, and then it's like, well, how am I supposed to get the experience if I can't then get my foot in the ladder to have the role in the first place? So that could be something to balance. But it's like it's staying true to yourself and how you see yourself and what you believe about yourself, knowing that you've done the work, you've got your qualifications, and you know that you're capable, you know that you're keen, you know you're positive, you know that you're motivated, and you know all those things. And it's sticking with that dialogue, with how you speak to yourself, to remind yourself of who you are, regardless of whether somebody says yes, you can have the job or not. That you don't question who you are. You don't start to talk negative to yourself, saying, you know, I mustn't be good enough, and maybe I thought I was good, but I mustn't be, and this, that, and the other. That's when the negative self-talk starts and the imposter syndrome comes up, and that's when we start to then lack confidence and have self-doubt. So it's really remembering and reminding yourself of how good, how capable you are, and no matter whether you get a job, yes or no, it's that you stay in that mindset, which comes from what you say to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and probably you as a leader as well, you've obviously interviewed people, and you can tell, can't you, when people are maybe not as engaged or really nervous. And I know it's easy to say that from sitting from the other side of the table, but it's about aiming to bring your best self to an interview, isn't it? Which I know is not. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like feeling really nervous, and I mean, you've given this advice to me that deep breathing exercises before you go into an interview, and things like that. So is there any sort of tips around that could help people if they are feeling maybe a bit low, and what they could do?
Yeah, I mean, when I worked in corporate and I didn't do this role, that's exactly what I used to do. I remember when I left the place I worked with Donna for 10 years, I had an interview for somewhere else, and I remember I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't know that I was doing affirmations, but all the way from home to the office, I literally was sat telling myself, I am confident, I am smiley, I am happy, I am upbeat, I'm positive, I'm educated. And that's all I said to myself between leaving the house and getting to the place where I had the interview. And I was talking myself into the state, into the energy that I wanted to be in whilst I was in the interview, and reminding myself of who I was, so that no other thoughts came in, because you can't think two things at once. So instead of driving along going, what if I don't get the job? What if they don't like us? Yeah. What if I can't answer the questions? What if this? What if that? What if that? All the negative. Yeah. I used to choose to not focus on that and focus on all of the things that I knew about myself and affirm those to myself. So when I got there, I was feeling really confident. When I went in, I gave a good account of myself, which is all the things I was saying to myself were true. Whereas what tends to happen is we'll sit and go, what if I freeze? What if I can't answer the questions? What if I this? What if I that? And what if they don't like us? And then by the time we get there, we're down on the floor because we've talked ourselves into that state. And then, you know, they've seen our CV, they want to talk to us, and we're on the bottom before we even get in the room, because we've took ourselves there because of the things we're saying. So it's really important, like you say, the breaths of being in the present moment. And my advice is affirm to yourself exactly what it is that you want to tell yourself, and what you believe, which you know is true, that you walk into that place as the best version of you. The other thing is, what I always used to think of with an interview is, it's not just them interviewing me, I'm interviewing them. This
Really
is a
good point.
conversation between me and this other person to see if we are a right fit for each other. It's not all about do they want me or like me or not. It's, do I want to work there? Do their values and culture match mine? So I'm just as much as casing them out to see if I want to work there as they are me. And it's not an interview, it's a conversation. They're going to ask us questions and I'm going to answer them. It just takes the pressure off.
Yeah, I really love that actually, because actually then you sort of then go, that actually even puts you in a different mindset, that, doesn't it? So yes, they're interviewing me, but actually I'm interviewing them in a way to make sure that this is the company, these are the values, this is the vibe, you know. So that in itself, almost, you saying that takes a bit of pressure off you as an individual, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Because and it's true, right? It's a mutual conversation where they're going to be asking you questions, you're going to be demonstrate what you know, and ultimately you know what you know. They'll ask you a question, you'll give them the answer that you know, and if that ain't what they're looking for, then you're not a good match because you know what you know, right? So it's just, it's a mutual conversation where you're seeing if yous are a right fit for each other, rather than it being, do they want me or not? Do they think I'm good enough?
Yeah, yeah. And I do think with the breathe, because I've used that since I've been working with you, and I have used it years ago in interviews, and then you sort of forget, don't you? And then for me, I did find that focus. You've got to find where the place is. You go into reception, like, oh, you go up on that lift. You're taking in a lot, aren't you? And then you get there and you're like, oh, you can feel you're all heightened, aren't you? And just going somewhere and having sort of a few minutes on your own can just make such a difference.
Definitely, like breathe deep breaths. Like you say, whether you go into a toilet cubicle and you just sit and do it there, or you do the reception out or wherever. It's like bringing yourself into the present moment, and focus on your breath is a good way to bring yourself in the present moment. And just doing some nice deep breathing just calms your nervous system down right before you go in, because you want to be in the state where you just naturally show up as your authentic self and they get to meet you and you know what you know, rather than a heightened version of yourself where you've got yourself all worked up into a stew, and then you come across it, you're not even coming across that yourself, because you're trying to tell them what you think they want to hear, and you're trying to show them what you think they want to see, rather than actually just showing up as you, and you either that'll be right for them or it won't, but you know that you've shown up as yourself and that's who you are, and you'll either be a right fit or you won't. And if you're not, that doesn't say anything about you, it's just that wasn't the right company.
Exactly. And I know, and I have done this before, anyone who might be watching who's interviewed me. So when you go in and you can feel really nervous, can't you? And then they ask you the first question and then you just talk flat, like it's like you just want to get it all out. You've been reviewing it, you've been going through your examples, blah, blah, and you go, blah, and you can sort of then see people switching off, can't you? And then you're trying to like get it back and try and pull that back. Or maybe you don't realise, and I've done that before. I've had feedback where they said I just like talked like non-stop at the beginning because I so desperately, and I suppose that's something, wanted a job. So I just talked. I suppose if you feel in an interview that you feel either you've talked like, or you feel like you feel uncomfortable, is there anything in an interview when you've got people looking at you that you could do to sort of calm yourself down?
Literally, like, because I've obviously used to run recruitment as well in companies, so I've interviewed and been interviewed. Like, it's okay to say, I'm just going to pause for a moment because I've lost my train of thought. I'm just going to take a pause. I'm not sure I've answered the question. Can you repeat the question? Every time somebody asks you a question, my advice is take your time before you start talking. So let them ask you the question and then just take a pause, collect your thoughts, even say, I'm just going to think about that and collect my thoughts and then talk. Like I said, you might feel in your head, you're thinking that I'm just going to take a pause. I feel like I've gone off on a tangent. Can you repeat the question? Because interviewers know that there's going to be some nerves. Or if you want a bit more time and you're not ready, you haven't got an answer in your head, say to them, can you repeat that question again? And what tends to happen is they'll say the question but in a different way, and it just gives you a little bit more time to then come up with something that you want to say. But it's okay to say, I'm just going to take a few moments to think about how I want to answer that.
That's really good advice. And actually, when interviewing somebody, you don't want anyone to fail. I think you sit from the other being interviewed thinking, like that, but actually when you are interviewing people, you just want people to do really well, don't you? Well, I've always felt like that, try and make them relax.
Like the whole point is it's a nice conversation that you get to know the person, and you get to, the interviews want to know if you're a right fit for the role. So the most important thing is show them the real you, because that's who they're hiring and that's who they're going to be working with at the end of the day.
Yeah, excellent. That's really good. So I think we're just about coming to the end. So is there anything else that we've talked about, Cheryl, that you think is burning that you'd like to say that could be some advice or anything, or even from your experience?
I think it's just reiterating what I've already said. Like, it's the most important thing is how you speak to yourself about the roles, and when you go into an interview, and if you get a yes or you get a no, it's like you don't then allow self-doubt to creep in. You don't start questioning who you are. You know who you are. You know that the right role is going to come along. And when something is a yes, it means that you weren't the right fit and that role wasn't the right thing for you. And just accepting it as that, and not then starting to question yourself, so that your confidence and your capability and how you feel about yourself remains strong. So therefore, when you're walking into interviews and you feel like that, then you are more inclined, because you're feeling confident, to just be like, this is me, will either be a right fit or we won't. And if we're not, the next right thing is on its way.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. And I will drop your detail. I mean, we did touch on imposter syndrome. Maybe you or Donna will come back and talk about that at some point, because I think that is quite a big thing as well, isn't it? But I'll drop your details in below as well, so if anybody wants to contact you and have your company details. But thank you today. It's been so great talking to you. Speak to you soon. See you later. If you like the video, make sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future uploads of Career Voices.